Let's start the meeting. We're back in open session already. First thing on the agenda is a notice of a public hearing. So during this board meeting, the board will hold a public hearing pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute Section 118.381B to take comments from the public pertaining to the board's plan to ask the Department of Public Instruction for waivers.
So if you look, we have three waivers we are looking for from the Department of Public Instruction. The waiver for the requirement of Statute 121.02, Friends 1F, administrative rules in the department regarding instructional hours for students for the 2021 school year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. A waiver for the requirement to complete the educator effectiveness cycle for educators in their summary year during 2021, including waivers to meet the PI 801 and Wisconsin Statute 115.415 and 112.2 Friends 1, Friends Q for the 2021 school year, again due to the COVID-19 public health emergency, and a waiver for the requirement to complete the personal evaluation under Wisconsin Statute 121.02 Friends 1 Q, which required school districts to evaluate in writing the performance of all certified school personnel at the end of their first year and at least every third year thereafter for the 2021 school year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Due to the COVID-19 closure of schools, additional planning time was necessary to coordinate online and blended instructional in-person instruction. The board offered an online option for families, and so therefore we have not met the required hours of instructional minutes this year. And that waiver is being requested to address that issue. And then the waiver for educator effectiveness and personal evaluation is based on the district asking staff to teach and instruct in a way that they've never been trained to do. It was not felt to be best practice to have our staff focus on these areas when they need to free them up so they can plan and innovate. And there's new and different instructional models. This benefits students as staff are freed up to spend more time developing lesson plans that match the models of instruction the district was in at the current times. The district has switched instructional models 3 times this school year, which has taken a significant amount of planning time for all of our staff. This waiver provides that opportunity to postpone some educator effectiveness and personal evaluation requirements this year and start them over next year. And DPI has offered a wide variety of waivers that the district could apply for. Some districts did it in the beginning of the year. We decided to wait at the end of the school year, just not knowing what we would need, knowing that these 3, I talked about all 3 of these earlier in the year, that we would need these 3 for sure, and these are the only 3 that we are asking for.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve that?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion by Shelley and a second by Julie. Any further discussion?
Since this is a public
You should read it.
hearing, we should also allow time for the public to.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So there is public here.
There's a public meeting, right?
Would any of the public? have
Anyone
anything to say?
online who's in the online meeting like to speak? That would be your chance. Okay, hearing no, we are going to have more of this next here.
Do we need to read this entire thing?
So first we have to approve this. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's 7-0. And now we have to consider to take action on the resolution to request waivers. I'll be happy to read this for you.
Go for it.
School board resolution for the waiver of certain school board or school district requirements pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 118.381 and 1M. Whereas Wisconsin statute 118.381 and Wisconsin Administration PI 8.014 authorize school boards to request the Department of Public Instruction to waive any school board or any school district requirement in Wisconsin statutes chapters 115 to 121 or in the administrative rules promulgated by the department under the authority of those chapters, and such lovely writing.
Want me to take over some?
Whereas Wisconsin statutes 118.381B require that before requesting a waiver, a school board shall hold a public hearing in a school district on the request for a waiver of any requirement in Wisconsin chapters 115 to 121. Whereas Wisconsin statutes 118.38.1M require that the school board shall specify in its request the reasons for requesting a waiver, which include impacts of school closure and restrictions on reopening. Whereas due to the COVID-19 school closure, additional planning time necessary to coordinate online blended and in-person instruction, and the board offering an online option for families, we have not met the required hours and minutes of instruction this year. This waiver is being requested to address that issue. Whereas the waiver for educator effectiveness and personal evaluation is based on the district asking staff to teach and instruct in a way that they had never been trained to do. It was not felt to be the best practice to have our staff focus on these areas when we needed to free them up to plan and innovate in these new and different instructional models. This benefited staff and students. I should have read this ahead of time. This benefited students as staff were freed up to spend more time developing lesson plans that matched the model of instruction the district was in. The district has switched instructional models 3 times this school year, which has taken a significant amount of planning time for all of our staff. This waiver provided the opportunity to postpone some educator effectiveness and personal evaluation requirements this year and start them over next year. Now, therefore, it be resolved that on April 12th, 2021, the Board of Education held a public hearing in satisfaction of Wisconsin Statutes 11838(1)B concerning requests for waivers of the requirements identified herein, and in compliance with Wisconsin Statutes 11838(1) and 1M, and for the reasons set forth herein, the Board of Education hereby directs the district administrator or his or her designee to apply on behalf of the board to the Office of the Superintendent for Public Instruction, OSPI, for the waiver of the following. And here's the 3 waivers. Waiver for the requirement of Wisconsin Statute 121.02(1)F and the administrative rules promulgated by the department regarding required instructional hours for students for the 2020-2021 school year, only due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Waiver of the requirement to complete an educator effectiveness cycle for educators in their summer year in 2019-2020, including waivers of the requirement to meet PI 8.01 and Wisconsin Statutes 115.415 and 121.02(1)Q for the 2019-20 school year, only due to COVID-19 public health emergency. Waiver of the requirements to complete a personal evaluation under Wisconsin Statute 121.02(1)Q, which requires school districts to evaluate in writing the performance of all certified school personnel at the end of their first year and at least every 3rd year thereafter for the 2020-2021 school year, only due to COVID-19 public health emergency. Be it further resolved that execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the Board of Education's approval of this action and the authority granted herein at a duly noticed meeting of the board held on April 12th, 2021. And I will make a motion to approve the DPI waiver resolution as presented.
I will second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion?
Are we roll calling?
We can definitely roll call.
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes?
Adam says yes.
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 7-0. No
And
one
you
is
did that
opposed.
all in one breath. That's amazing.
Thank you for reading it all, Adam.
No, no, no. Multiple breaths. Okay, we have no TPPS.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do.
Yeah. So, first off, I would like to ask Shelley Pear to come up here, please. So we have 2 members of our Board of Education who are leaving us. This is their last meeting tonight. They have, and they are so disappointed. So we appreciate the amount of time and energy, not just for meetings, but behind the scenes. Come over here, Shelley.
In the camera, in the camera.
I'm used to being directing.
Yeah, I know. So we put together a certificate of commendation that comes from the WASB. So look at it. And there's also
Can
a
you see my
plaque.
smile?
Oh, you got a plaque, yeah, maybe this one too. It's the technology issues you're dealing with, Shelley.
Exactly.
So this one reads, the School District of Lodi and its Board of Education acknowledge Shelley Pear with grateful appreciation for your dedicated service to the students, staff, and community in the years 2015 to 2021 for the 6 years of service. So thank you, Shelley.
something?
You sure may.
Well.
Let me take a seat.
I just want to say I really, really enjoyed being on the board. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, because I didn't know. I mean, I'm not used to being in meetings. I'm used to doing things physically, Zumba, dancing, choreography. So to be in meetings was very different for me. But I did. I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed it. The Zoom was not my favorite. But everything else was really good, and I got to work with fabulous people. That's probably the best part of it. And even in this last year of 29 full board meetings, we still got a lot accomplished, and we worked really well together. And the one thing I've said to everybody is, we've never had a meeting where we didn't laugh about something. And if you can do that, you can pretty much conquer anything. So, thank you.
Steven Ricks.
I gotta follow that.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't do the splits, so, you
Dress
know.
up.
Cartwheel.
Or cartwheel.
All right. So Stephen is our other board member who is leaving us after 6 years of service. So again, a certificate of commendation.
Do we have to hold it like this?
WASB. Sure.
I'm smiling.
I'm frowning. Because you're leaving. And again, a plaque that says the School District of Lodi and its Board of Education acknowledges Stephen Ricks with grateful appreciation for your dedicated service to the students, staff, and community from 2015 to 2021. You want to say?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of echo a lot of what Shelley said, that I've said to a lot of you on here that done a lot of things in this community between the fire department and church councils and LCAT, but the school board has been one of the most fulfilling jobs that I've had in this community. I feel like we really have an impact, that we're really able to make a change and a difference, and so I'll be sad to let that go. I think also, I made this decision before COVID hit, but COVID definitely helped me confirm that decision. It's not the reason, and I think Shelley would say the same thing, it's not the reason we're getting off. I think that almost encouraged us to stay on, because you can see the different opinions in the community, and someone's kind of, some group has to rise above that and kind of take all the information in and make the best decisions possible. And I think that that's what we've tried to do. I love the fact that we all come from different backgrounds, that we all have different opinions, and yet we can sit in this meeting and we can have honest discussions, and at the end of it, if one of us votes no, I love the fact that the other ones are kind of saying, are you okay with this decision, even though you voted no? I think that's great. And the fact then that we all go out and support that decision afterwards is even better. So I have high hopes for the board. I think we're leaving it in good shape. I think you're going to have some good new candidates on as well, so that makes it easier to leave, and I appreciate everyone's help throughout these years. Thank you.
And again, I just say thank you to both of them. In my first year as a district administrator, I couldn't ask for a better Board of Education and 2 better members. So as I've told them both, I'm very disappointed they're leaving, but I'm sure I'll be touching base with them as we move forward as well, and pulling them back in to help out with other things as well. So.
2 very helpful people.
Yeah.
May 25th and June 2nd, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good transition there,
You're welcome.
Ms. Perry.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have a presentation by the members of the Vision Elements Study Team.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Ann Groves Lloyd.
Are we on the spot?
You are.
Great spot, okay.
Dr. Crane and Heather Hatley are going to talk. They're members of the Vision Element Study Team for the Strategic Plan.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you tonight, and most of all, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this strategic planning process, excuse me, between my asthma and the pollen, not COVID. It's been an incredible experience, and I've been telling a lot of people as mayor, I think our city is undergoing a little bit of an identity crisis. And to have a board like our Board of Education have, if you will, the humility to say that we want to hear from the citizens to help us identify where we want to go doesn't happen all that often. And I think we all feel that we've been handed a real gift to be a part of this. And as mayor, when I was elected and Vince became superintendent, we decided that we were really gonna try to work together as much as possible, and as circumstance and thinking would have it, the city, about the time this strategic planning is winding down, the city will be undergoing some strategic planning as well. I think, as a lifelong resident here, I think, I don't know who we wanna be when we grow up. And I think, as a community, not just the city of Lodi, but as Lodi, the broader Lodi, we just need to figure out, what we want people to think of when we think of Lodi. That aside, the dovetailing of this work with what the city's gonna be doing, I think we're right now, all of us feeling very humbled and excited to be a part of planting a lot of seeds that we're gonna get to see grow. So it's been an amazing experience. Brad, who's the facilitator, and believe me, over 30 years of working at the university, I've been through more strategic planning processes than you can shake a stick at. This is incredibly rewarding. He's just been great to work with, and I'm really excited about where we are, and I'm excited for the community, for our kids. So I'm gonna turn it over to Joel and Heather to talk.
So I wanted to say thank you guys for the opportunity. What's been really amazing is to watch this group of, I don't know, I think maybe 15 of us come together. You know, I probably knew about half the people in the room when I walked in, and now I have some new best friends in my contacts list. And we come from all walks of life, and that I know is what you all intended, but it's been really fun to talk with people who have interest in ag, or interest in sports, or interest in the business community, or interest in the volunteer community that we have, or the government of our city, the arts, whatever our labels are, because we all wear many of them. You guys picked an amazing group of people, and Brad has done a wonderful job in facilitating, knitting us all together to a common purpose. One of the things that our group of, 15 of us did, I think that's how many are there all the way, is that we sat down and we said these are areas of the community that we feel like we would want to be part of a community conversation. And from those areas, be that the ag or the business or the whatever those buckets were, we then sat down and said, oh, this person would be a great person, this person would be a great person, this would be a great person. We came up with a list of over 200 people. That's incredible that 15 people could say, here are 200 people that would be wonderful to bring into this community conversation to look at a vision for what the district would want in the next 5 years or so. So out of that group of 200 people, we're all starting to make our phone calls and contact with them and reaching out in hopes that they will join us on our community conversation day. And so Joel's going to talk about that.
So, where we're at now, as Heather hit it on the head, 200 people or so. Some of us have started to make phone calls, some haven't. So far, the phone calls I made today were pretty positive, so. I think, number one, it's a broad array of people, and I think that's what, number one, the community, that's what we wanted, that's what you guys wanted, right? So obviously the purpose is to see the community involvement. So the title, we named it, was A Conversation for Our Future. As Shelley just stated, the dates are the 25th of May and June 2nd from 5:30 to 8:30 in the Commons. We'll get through our first round of phone calls by the end of April, so I think it's April 23rd. We'll get through those first round, and then we'll start doing some marketing around town. So we discussed doing marketing via social media. We discussed doing marketing via a banner down at the bank. We discussed a community link post. So kind of a broad range of marketing. We're not just throwing all our eggs in one basket, but we're expanding everything. So hopefully you guys as the school board get out of it what you were hoping to get out of it. And hopefully as a community then we can give the school board and Vince some direction as to where do we want the district to go, where do we want the curriculum to go, what do we want to do with facilities and plan for the future of Lodi. Obviously I have stake in the game. I've got 4 young kids. Heather's on her way out. And obviously for us, I think it's important that the city is starting to tie together the school
I think
district.
he's saying I'm old.
I did not say that.
Is that on the way?
I am smiling under my mask. So that being said, do you guys have any questions for us?
Did you have a lot of questions from the people that you've talked to so far?
So I haven't. So some of them are close friends that I did. One person I talked to is a little skeptical about it, but for the most part, it seemed pretty, they're pretty excited. I think, you know, it's no different than when Adam called me. You kind of feel pretty honored, honestly, like, wow, they thought of me. Whether they thought of me, I'd ruffle feathers, or I was a good, wasn't, I don't know. But I think it's important to have both sides of that, so you here's what people are unhappy with, here's what people are happy with. So, and like I said, maybe people are unhappy, but no one wants to say anything, and now maybe this stirs the pot a little bit, which, you know, we don't want negativity, but maybe that turns into something positive. So maybe one person says something, all of a sudden everybody at that table all of a sudden says, I was thinking the same thing, I just didn't want to say it. So my goal is, again, and my part of my reason of saying yes is, again, I have kids in the game, I'm a community member, I'd like to see some plan for where do we see the community go, so that, you know, people can plan accordingly. You know, whether it be curriculum, whether it be facilities, or what are we missing in our curriculum? What does society need in general? So I'm pretty sure that's what'll come about just from the conversation of our small group. Kudos to you guys. You know, the first day we sat down, there's 15 people, and you may know some and you may know not, just like Heather said. But to hear everybody introduce themselves and say, this is where I'm from, this is what I do, you suddenly realize in that group is everybody's from a different walk of life. So that the group that was selected is catching every different element from the city in the community. So kudos to you guys for picking it out. I don't know how you guys did it, but I think, well,
It worked.
I think from that regard, though, you're getting a really good representation of the community with the 200 people that are on this list. It's pretty mind-blowing. Like you said, 15 people can figure out 200 people. That's crazy. So hopefully, like I said, you guys get what you want out of it, and we as a community move forward in a better direction. Not that we're in a bad direction now, but we move forward in a good direction, positive direction. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
And a shout out to Mo, who is the goddess of our minutes, and he is moving along.
So, thank you guys for the opportunity, and if you have any questions, you can direct them towards our mayor.
Yeah. My phone number's unlisted.
I'm gonna do Shelley. Joel, out.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all, yeah.
So they've been great to work with, obviously. It's been a great group. And it is a great time, as they talked about, it's a great time to bring this community together. It's been a rough year for everybody, regardless of what community you're in. It's just the timing is great with that. Plus, me being a new administrator, it's just a good time for us to be sitting down and having these conversations and bringing the community back together. So looking forward to those community conversations on May 25th and June 2nd.
You guys can stay, we have another 3 hours.
Bye-bye.
I'll go log on it. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you all.
You will get an official invite, don't worry.
If I just wanna make sure it's on my calendar, I don't plan something else.
It's also the one thing that they didn't say that I would like to add is that each of them is calling mainly people they know. And so it's a network of people calling other people that are familiar with each other and comfortable with each other. And it really is working very well, in my opinion. So.
But we definitely need the opposite sides so
Oh, yeah.
that we can
Yeah.
grow together
Yep.
and fix things. I was really happy to hear that.
That sounds like it was a good investment.
Yeah, and the key is it's they're driving that, right? It's not the board driving who we're bringing into this conversation. It's not the administration driving who's coming into the conversation. It's community members driving this conversation, right? So it's not like, you know, we're trying to set something up so we get an outcome. We want to hear it, and we want to have that conversation, and that's the idea, is to pull people together.
And then in these meetings, Vince and I are both there, but we're both sort of quiet and
Yep.
try not to, we don't lead, if somebody has a question, we answer it, but it's their meeting, so it's been amazing.
Well, thanks to both of you, because you both have put in a lot of time, so that's also appreciated.
Yeah, and just a reminder who's on that committee, Sky Barron, Dr. Joel Crane, Ann Groves Lloyd, Heather Hatley, Justin Johnson, Jeff Lorenz, Jen Morgan, Tyler Potter, Nick Prozik, Mandy Sitzman, Adam Steinberg, Mary Wilkes, and Rachel Wickerford. So it's been a great group,
And yourself.
and myself.
Okay, next we'll move on to public input. Purpose of the citizen input agenda item is for the public to provide comments on any agenda item or to publicly address the Board of Education on items that pertain to school business. Amount of time allotted for each speaker will generally not exceed 5 minutes per person to allow all people who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. However, the president may modify the time limits at his or her discretion. If the speaker has a question for the board, they'll be duly noted and responses will be provided in an appropriate manner. But the board cannot respond to individual questions or individual comments as part of the public input agenda item. As an additional reminder, the board cannot take action on any item that is brought forth during the public input session or on any item that was not posted on the meeting agenda. Citizen input is an important part of the board meeting agenda, and the board appreciates hearing from the community on issues concerning them and our school district. And there's no one here personally, and does anyone online like to speak? Public input?
Yep, and we didn't have anybody sign up.
Okay, so next we have the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items on this section will be adopted as a group unless a board member requests a specific item be removed from the consent agenda and addressed separately. We have the approval of the minutes from March 8th board meeting. We have a large number of vouchers as usual for payroll checks, deposits, accounts payable, account payable ACH payments, and credit card payments. We have one fundraiser request for the greenhouse management and landscaping plant sale. No fundraiser reports, no field trip requests. Committee recommendation of approval, we have the primary school, elementary school OSC hiking club, middle school GSA proposal, high school diversity club. Under other, we have 2021 winter sports season summary and the loaning of athletic equipment for local summer program. Resignation and retirement, we have middle school life skills health teacher, director student services, high school math STEAM teacher, senior class advisor, homecoming advisor, and world language department head. Under co-curricular, we have primary school, elementary school OSC fair coordinator, assistant golf coach. Nothing under crew, regular staff, IT network specialist, OSC educational assistant, primary school educational assistant, 2 of them, 2nd grade teacher, 5th grade teacher, high school science teacher, which we are going to table till May, extension of a long-term high school English substitute, extension of a long-term high school substitute, primary school educational assistant, change in hours and classification, and a primary school assistant change in leave. Under personnel other, we have a number of leave without pay requests for people.
I will make a motion as soon as I find it back again. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, but tabling the high school science teacher.
I'll second.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Angie. Any further discussion?
PS educational assistant, just a small correction, it was a change in level. I think you stated something else.
Oh,
You said
thank you.
change in leave.
Leave.
Please.
Change in
Thank
leave.
you for that
Should be
update.
So much talking tonight.
Yeah, lots of talking. Thank you for catching that.
Good job.
No further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. We're on to the regular agenda. 2020, 2021 school reopening plan.
Yeah, so, as always, this has been our #1 agenda item, since July. So there's not really a formal presentation tonight. I am just gonna have each of the building principals talk about, the transition as of next Monday. We are starting back 4 days a week, full-time, with students. So I'm just gonna have each building principal talk briefly about it. I will speak to, the middle school. I should have mentioned this before, Mr. Prozik and, Mr. Richter are not here tonight. They are both watching their senior sons play soccer tonight. And that's where our senior board member is as well, playing soccer.
So watching his dad watching?
Watching his dad, watching him, exactly. So I'm gonna start with the primary school. We'll go from there.
So we are 1 week away. I really feel like the staff in conversations with them, we are ready. We are absolutely ready for that. Today I sent out a message to our families, a PowerPoint and a video just to highlight what things will look like for their student. We talked about arrival, talked about what the schedule of the day would look like, lunch, breakfast, recess, dismissal. So, I mean, really, we're at the spot where, families should be getting the information for busing on Infinite Campus. That's a question that's coming up right now. We do have, for those students that are gonna be online, they still have one more supply pickup, or they've got a supply pickup on Wednesday, so they'll be ready for their classes. So it's just kind of the last little details here and there, but the vibe and everything is, we are positive, we are ready. It's gonna be an exciting day.
Cool. So as we go through, do you know, each of you know the percentage of kids who are coming back and not coming back? Is it 20/80, is it?
I'd say ballpark, it is about 90% of our kids are coming back
I
in
would say.
person K-8,
Okay.
and at the high school.
High school, 66%.
Okay.
Very precise, thank you, Mr.
Well, that's a very specific number.
Yeah, pulled it right out of the air.
But 90 up until 8th grade, 90%,
Yeah.
and then
About.
66 in
Yeah,
high school.
and again, it varies a little bit,
Right,
right?
no, of course.
Between different grades, or some grades are coming back a little bit more and some less, but it's about 90%.
Wow.
So in the hybrid model, you had students or teachers dedicated to certain online entire classrooms? So how is that working out then for the students who are needing to stay virtual? Like, what teachers do they have?
Yeah, so for 4K, we have very few students that are staying online, so they will be streaming in with Mrs. Hasberg. So she was the online teacher, she had that, so she's doing that. We do have a designated class in kindergarten and first grade where we have one teacher that will be just working directly with the online students, and there's about 11 to 12 students in those classes. They're definitely smaller, but it made sense, and we were able to do that. In second grade, we have 2 teachers that both were teaching the online, and so they have joined their classes together, so they're gonna be in the building teaching the students in person, and then they're also gonna be doing online, and so they've just created this collaboration to support that, so.
Can I ask you, how
Yeah.
hard is that? That seems extremely hard to do online and in person. I can't even fathom, so.
So at the primary, it's, the majority is they have their own designated class. So I would probably defer to Mr. Pisani and some of the other principals, because our teachers, we have just the amount of people that we're able to have it more of a designated section, I'd say.
It just seems really hard, because I work with Renee and for forensics, and they've got their computer in front of them, and they've got another one to the side. I'm like, what is going on? So
Yeah.
I just
Very
think
difficult.
it's a challenge, so I really applaud the teachers. It's hard enough to teach, but with having to do different variants within and change all that, oh my gosh. So as a former teacher myself, I really applaud the teachers. And I know that it's been brought up several times, but
Yeah.
boy, oh boy.
You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
We are, we have, in our third grade LES, we have a section of online, we have 14 kids, so we actually did the flip-flop. We had one section before when we were doing blended, but that section was 30 kids because of how the numbers worked out. So, they really got together and they're like, you know what, this section is very small, but it was very large before, so this just kind of worked out in the wash. So we're able to follow the primary school model at LES third grade, and then after third grade, our numbers range from a low of 3 online to, I think, sorry, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but like to 9 or 10. And so then they will be sprinkled in, which is exactly what Ms. Fosbender was talking about. So in fourth grade, because of the small numbers, just the 3, they're in one class. So our third grade will have 3 in-person sections and 1 online. Our fourth grade will have 4 in-person sections. One of those sections will have the 3 online kids. And then OSC and fifth grade will sprinkle throughout the classes. So there's no more than 3 in most cases of kids that are online. As we were planning that, we had to really think about what that looks like. Because one kid online, like, it makes it a little bit easier to have the discussion. You're only thinking about the one online kid, but then if that kid ever needs to talk with somebody, it can be really hard to hear in the classroom. So like, the online kids can go into a breakout room. To Shelley's point, I think there's definitely going to be challenges, but we tried to mitigate the challenges as much as we can. So that's our classroom makeups and what they look like. We're spread out in the building too, so everybody's in a classroom. OSC for the OSCers looks very different. but they came up with a fabulous idea to use the OSC space and really kind of create 4 pods, for lack of a better term, within the open space. And so they really have thought about how to do that. As they're teaching, they're gonna move through the kids teach like reading and math. And so at all points, what we've said is we're gonna use as many mitigation strategies as possible, and we're gonna start with the most mitigation strategies, and then figure out what we're trading, and then make some decisions. So in some cases, there aren't as many mitigation strategies in place, but that was a very purposeful trade based on what we had to give up. Some of those strategies are that, most classrooms are sitting with kids 3 feet apart at their desks. There are a few classrooms that have chosen pods, so like closer knit pods, but then are 6 feet away from the next pod. And then recess, the playground, if you notice, if you walk out this way, there's rope all over the playground, so that's dividing the playground into 4 quadrants, so kids go outside to recess as a classroom pod, so that's how we're keeping them together that way. Entering all different doors of the building than we ever have to try to keep those kind of numbers small. Lunch is gonna be in the 1 class in the lunchroom, 2 in the little gym, 1 in the art room, so that again, we're keeping them 6 feet apart while their masks are off. Just all of those kind of details, and like Amy, it's definitely coming together. Staff has worked super hard, and I think kids are really gonna appreciate all the hard work that our staff put in.
Any questions?
Wow.
There's wow, yeah, quickly. And then middle school?
So middle school, just Joe had shared, he just wanted to share that everybody's ready, schedules have been completed, classes are balanced, and safety protocols have been put in place, but there are a few key differences he wanted to highlight, bringing back students 4 days a week. We are not able to socially distance students in most classrooms, however, they will have detailed seating charts, and students may be cohorted in academic classes to minimize exposure. Mondays and Tuesdays will be A days, Thursday, Fridays will be B days. This is a change from right now where we've had A weeks and B weeks. This allows us to cohort students while still seeing both groups the same week. 6th grades will continue to have breakfast in their classrooms and do this safely with the number of students they have in their rooms. 7th and 8th grade will be eating breakfast in the cafeterias. They cannot do that safely in their classrooms. And they'll have each class eating lunch at the same time, kind of like Mike was talking about. Splitting the lunches in half. They will be having tables in the lunchroom, on the stage, down the hallways, and potentially down by the wrestling room. This will allow all our students to eat while remaining socially distant. And detailed information will be shared out with all families this Wednesday. And he just really wants to reach out and thank all the teachers, educational assistants, office staff, custodial staff, food service for the efforts for them the best possible plans for the students, and they're looking forward to the start on April 19th.
In high school?
So first of all, I mentioned the percentage, 66% of the kids are gonna come back in person 4 days a week. Specifically 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. 9th grade, we have 78%, which we're pretty excited about that percentage coming back. And we're gonna have our 3rd freshman open house, tomorrow night. So we've never had more than 1, now we have 3, because there are some families with freshmen, they've never been in the high school. So we're gonna offer them their schedule, we'll have some link crew kids there to kind of show them around. So the biggest anxiety about coming to high school is knowing exactly where your classes are, so hopefully, we've got about 15 families right now, hopefully we'll get a few more before tomorrow night that will come in and walk through the school. We've done everything that the other principals are kind of talking about. I've met with building reps to talk about instruction and what that looks like with kids that are in person and kids that you have online. So Shelley, it is a big lift. It's very, very difficult for them to figure out how that works best. They've gotten really good at it. They're going to have to shift just a little bit because they're gonna have to, I guess I could say, pay more attention to those kids that are in front of them. And the biggest question I've gotten from families is, what is instruction gonna look like? And my answer was, it kind of depends. It depends on the class, it depends on the number of students that are in person in that class, the type of class that it is. So we've talked about that a lot. And then obviously operations, in between classes, what that looks like. We're significantly increasing the number of kids in the school, so movement from one class to the next and trying to stay socially distanced. Because of the number of kids we have in school that are coming back, we still, for the most part, can distance them 6 feet and have masks on, which makes, I think, everybody feel pretty safe. There are a few classes where they do have to be a little bit closer based on the numbers. We feel like our COVID screener, I want to speak to that just a little bit. So our COVID screener that we'll continue to do with all of our families and all of our kids fill them out, not our parents. And if they don't fill it out, their first block teacher knows it, and they get right on their Chromebook, and they fill it out as soon as they get to class. That's worked out really well. I want to thank my admin assistant, Dawn Schwartz, for kind of being in charge of that and dealing with all of that data every morning. Lunch periods, we're going to continue to have 3, about 100 kids per lunch period. They'll be eating in the commons and the large group instruction room, which can spread them out at least 6 feet. So 100 per lunch. And then we'll be sharing a reopening plan tomorrow with families, along with a video that I created just to talk about some of the slight changes and some of the new ways that our students that have never been in the building, like what stairwells they can walk up and what stairwells they now will walk down. It'll all be new to them. So day 1, we're gonna have kids go right to homeroom and talk about some of those things, so their understanding of it. And just like Mr. Prosek mentioned, I'm very thankful for the office staff, for guidance, and for all of our teachers, for all the preparation they've had to do now for the 3rd time. So they're doing an amazing job, so we're very excited.
I want to say something quick about, I thank the teachers because they have to do so much difference. But I gotta say, all my years, I felt that the custodians and the support staff really run the buildings, because they know the ins and outs, and I should have appreciated them earlier today. It just takes a lot. And without the people behind the scenes, the stars, who are the teachers, don't get to do all their things. So thanks again to all the background people, I guess.
And I can speak for Scott Roelke at our school. He does an amazing job, and I've met with him many times and meeting with Dawn Schwartz as well, and just to get the building ready.
Yeah.
I think we feel less nervous about this start than we were about January 19th, just because we've got all the safety protocols put into place already, so. we feel
And you've
pretty
had to deal with a lot of stuff that you can kind of fine tune at this
Yep.
point, maybe?
Exactly.
Good.
But I do have a question on, Amy, you mentioned that the busing schedule would come out, but do we know when? 'Cause that's kind of the last unknown for parents right now.
I have been checking in several, I have not checked that 100%, so I should be careful of that. But I do know that that was being uploaded,
So they should get it any
last
day now,
week, and
right?
yeah.
Yep. They're working on it.
I've had a couple of parents say, I'm nervous about that.
Good catch.
For the families that have reached out to me today, I've started to look and I've seen them uploaded, so
Okay.
I would say
It's starting to
that,
come.
yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so the only thing I just give me a chance, and I want to add is, first of all, I just want to echo what they've all said with all of our staff. It's just been a huge, heavy lift for teachers, custodians, office staff, everybody, food service, building grounds, they've all done. I also want to thank our administrative team. They've been phenomenal, right? We have met our building administrators. We meet, our administrative team meets every other week, but then we meet weekly at the primary school, elementary school with Dr. Carls and Ms. Loken. And then we meet with high school, middle school group every other week, again with Ms. Loken and Dr. Carls, and have a lot of conversations and break, because there's some things that only impact the high school, middle school. Right, so we don't want to waste people's time, but we want to be able to focus on that. So they have done a phenomenal job leading this process and all the little details that come along. So it has been great. So I really appreciate them. Appreciate, again, our building and grounds and the different things they've had to do. I also want to let you know, one of the things that we've had to look at is, how are we going to do band? Right, that's something that's a little bit different. And there's been some pushback back and forth between some of the public health, like, well, if you're allowing sports, how can you not let band go on, right? But we are bringing in tents. They should be going up this Wednesday at the high school and the middle school, to 40 by 60 tents. And worked through McFarland. We went through a couple different vendors and were priced pretty high. Talked about buying our own. Was able to work with McFarland's and worked them down to a better price for us. So those will be going up on blacktop, so in the PAC parking lot and then behind the building, so we can have band and have some of those things outside as well. Safely. So,
A footnote on that, there was one, I don't know if it was somewhere in our district that they found, they put like, on the end of the flute, they put like a
bell cover?
yeah,
Yep.
covers on the instruments. I can't remember which
Yep.
school it was. It was somewhere close though.
Yeah, we have been doing that.
Okay.
They've been doing bell covers and masks and
Yeah.
those type of things, and there's still not a recommendation out of like for Dane County and the state that you can be doing band.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of people are,
Yeah,
but we are gonna allow those, we want those kids to be able to participate in that, but to do that safely, we wanna make sure it's safe, so we're gonna put them outside and have a tent. And again, that'd been hard to do in December, but hopefully by mid-April, it's gonna be warm enough, and we can do that for 6 weeks,
I
7
have
weeks.
one other thing, with the EAs, do they just work mostly with a single teacher or two teachers? They don't have, so that they work together that way?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
Because I know we could use more EAs, which is one of the reasons I want to say it in a public setting, is we could always use EAs, from what I know.
Right, yeah, so we don't wanna have our educational assistants bouncing around to every single classroom, right?
Right.
Because then they're cross-contaminating classes as well. They do move between some, they're also outside doing supervision and other like lunch and other times. So our educational assistants are vitally important to the work that we're doing and being able to get done at all of our building levels. And yes, we could use a few more, people are interested, they can apply.
Well, and if you're an EA, you work with a specific person.
Sometimes.
Also, you know, so anybody who is interested in having a job and filling out that form to be an EA, you would work with, you're not thrown all over everywhere. You work with usually one or two specific teachers depending on the situation.
Yeah, if
So-
anybody has questions, they should give us a call or
Yeah.
give one of the buildings a call
Yes,
about that.
cool.
Yeah, so we are ready for that transition next Monday. The other piece that I have on here is to talk about just a reminder of face coverings, right? The board has a face covering recommendation, requirement, not recommendation. We have a requirement that everybody wear a mask while they're on school grounds, period. As I shared in the board docs, there is a proposal from the Capital Conference. Dane County has allowed gatherings, if you're outside and you're 6 feet away from another person, you don't have, there's not a requirement of face masking anymore, or face coverings. So the Capital Conference is following that, so they are, so it's up to individual schools, but prior to that ruling, or prior to that Dane County coming out, everybody in the Capital Conference was following, spectators had to wear face coverings. It's now up to the districts individually. So that impacts us for soccer. In football, we are not part of the Capital Conference this year because of this alternate season. We're part of the Rock Valley Conference. The Rock Valley Conference is crystal clear that everybody will wear a face mask throughout the rest of the season. So it kind of puts us in a situation where, as of right now, we're all covered because that's what our board has. But I wanted to make the board aware that the Capital Conference would allow face coverings, to remove face coverings as spectators for soccer, but we can't do it for football. So I kind of gave some proposals out there, or the board can stay right where we are. And I just wanted to make people aware, just so.
When does the football season end?
May 1st is our last football game.
Another 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, so one of the proposals is we play our last conference game in 2 weeks. May 1st is a non-conference game, so we don't have to follow the Rock Valley rules for that one. So one of the proposals was if you would change the masking requirement for spectators, that it doesn't start till April 26th. And that way, we would only have a JV football game with Columbus, which I could talk to Columbus about, and then that final home football game, which is a non-conference game. So the three options I give for the community is, one, leave it as is. You have to wear face coverings on school grounds. Second one, change it to allow for spectators at athletic events, as long as they're 6 feet apart. And with our high school administration did a phenomenal job. They have spent a lot of time taping off our bleachers, so people do sit 6 feet apart. When I go to other games, because my son plays football, I go to other places and watch them. They don't always sit 6 feet apart because there's not marks, and people are people, right? They get a little closer. Or wait till the 26th of April to make that change so we're consistent between soccer and football. Or you can, and we can revisit it again at our May board meeting as well.
So the question I have is, you're asking people to wear a mask till they get to the stands, not you personally, but
Well,
the
we will,
rule.
yeah.
And then when they get to the stands, they get in their group, then they take their mask off, which is just like a restaurant and that kind of thing. So the football games are announced, right? And so the announcer, because people will show up late and they'll be like, why are those people not having a mask? I'm wearing a mask. And so an announcement could be made on a regular basis of what this is until people get it.
Well,
Is-
and
is-
again, we only have parents coming,
No, I
right?
understand that.
So it's not like it's a big group of people that we're dealing with. So like the football coach sends out an email to the,
They get it.
and they get it, like, this is what's coming up this week. Remember, you have to wear masks. And right now, they all have to wear masks, because that's our rule. We do get some pushback, right? So, the high school administration has to deal with pushback, like, I don't have to wear a mask at work. Why do I have to wear one here? Well, it's a board
Here's
requirement.
a good reason.
I'm not, yeah.
No, here's a good reason. I see in here that it's still required for all of our athletes, officials, and workers to wear masks.
Yep.
I think that the parents, out of respect for their athletes on the field, ought to wear the stinking mask. If for no other reason than that. The kids are playing sports, wearing masks. Let's respect them and do the same thing. That takes all the fight out of it, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm with you on that one. It never made any sense to me why it was a big deal to begin with, but since we have it, let's just do it.
I mean, if we were saying, nope, we're gonna let the kids do it without it, which I'm not for, then it would be a different story talking about the parents in the stands. But if we're requiring everybody on the field to do it, then the people in the stands should, just out of respect for them, should do it as well.
What happens with track?
Yeah,
Because
so-
there's so much more mingling with track.
Yeah, and that's the other issue, right? So, right now for sports, it's a little easier. Soccer's pretty easy, we have them in the stands. Football's pretty easy, we have them in the stands. Track, not so easy, right? People are mingling back and forth, they're going up to the throw pits, they're along the side of the fence, the bleachers aren't very big, most people don't sit in the bleachers anyhow, but, and we don't have as much control, there's not an entry point. Like for soccer and football, we have entry points. We don't have entry point for track, so kind of like cross-country, people can kind of wander a little bit more. We can try to tell them these are the areas you have to be in, and we can enforce that. The other issue will be baseball, softball. Again, there's not much bleacher space. People usually bring their lawn chairs, but trying to make sure they stay 6 feet apart. Again, that's hard if you don't have markings, because people think it's 6 feet apart until you actually go look and it's not. And the other part will be baseball will be very difficult, because we don't play that on school grounds, right? We play baseball in Dane. It's still a school event, and we can still require it. It just becomes much more difficult to enforce when we're on somebody else's property. So part of that hasn't been decided either with what spring sports, and that's our next agenda item, what we're gonna do with the conference. My guess is that the conference rules are gonna be kind of where they are now, like, and we'll be all capital conference for that spectators will not have to, in all places, wear those masks. But we've had conference schools who've been pushing for that since last September. Have been asking for us not to have masks for spectators and for players, so. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Did you have something?
No, I was
Okay, you're okay.
I wandered a little
So
bit there.
football is the only one that is not capital conference.
Yeah, so we're in an alternate season. Because of the alternate season, we are playing with a couple teams that would be in our Northern Capital Conference, but everybody else played football in the fall, so we jumped in with the Rock Valley this year. And when I sent out that question to our football conference, I got scolded. I would put it that way, like, absolutely not, we're not doing that. All of them were like, if you're on school grounds, you're wearing a mask.
Okay. I mean, I can't argue with what you said, Stephen, it makes perfect sense.
Well, I think consistency just makes more sense. If you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
have it
All the
straight
way
across,
across.
if you're on school property, you have to have a mask on. There's no questions, there's no arguing,
I
there's
don't
no.
think we have any like real advantage to like making special rules and confusing people and,
It makes it easier for the workers and everybody else if it's just all
You know,
consistent.
less crazy
And we're
too.
almost through the school year.
we're almost through this quick.
Consistent, make it
Almost there.
consistent through the end of the school year, and then rethink
Yeah.
for the fall.
For sure, we'll be having more conversations,
Right.
but
And I'm not recommending a change, but I just know this is coming up, so I just wanted to make sure the board was aware. Because there's also school districts who I shared that in the weekly note, my notes I sent out to the board, that there's 3 or 4 school districts in the state are not requiring masks, moving forward either. But the vast majority are. All right.
So it sounds like, based on what we're hearing from all of the board members, there's not gonna be any change. Is that true?
Agreed.
And I think we realize that enforcement's difficult. I think there are many tactics to approach, especially if it's not a law any longer. But I would definitely, in my opinion, I would play on the respect for the athletes and the workers, and that you could even have signs up. Then the enforcement just, I mean, like in the track, and if they're out away from everybody and not wearing a mask, you're not gonna walk up to them and say, hey, please wear a mask. But if there's a sign in the parking lot that says, out of respect for our athletes, we're requesting you to wear a mask, and it's on them.
I really like the out of respect for the athletes. That's a really good verbiage.
I mean, I think we get pushback from people if we didn't require the masks, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
We get, we're getting, you know,
Well, and again, I
right.
have a son on the football team, right? And every week I'm holding breath, and that's why one of the reasons there's 2 administrators at soccer games tonight. Like, I don't know if there'll be another soccer game, right? You just don't know. Every time we have a COVID case, you don't know. He's gonna take one COVID case in the soccer team, he's gonna take out the whole soccer team, or somebody you're playing, right? It's not even serious.
Yeah, right.
And we've seen that, so, anything we can do to try to make sure, as we've sat here and listened to people talk about, all we wanna do is be able to play. We'll do anything, okay? So.
That's the thing.
I agree, so, it's not, my dad is 82 years old, has trouble breathing, he wore a mask when he came to the football game. I was able to do it. So, and again, if somebody has a medical condition, they just need to reach out and let me know. I've had people do that, and we will honor that, absolutely. They just need to let us know. That's the issue.
You almost have to wear a sign that you have medical condition.
No, but, well,
I don't know, but everybody's like, why are you not wearing a mask?
But it's also small enough, and I have a verbiage put together as well, so I can talk to people about, we don't ask questions, and we're gonna
Right.
follow up, and, we respect people's privacy, and I let my workers know, again, it's a small enough crowd that I can talk to all the workers and say, so-and-so, and I've told people, like, I'll keep that as your medical issues private, but I'm gonna have to let people know that you have a medical condition that you don't have to wear a mask, and then they don't get bothered. Or if they do come bother you, come send them to me, because again, I'm at every football game, or we have an administrator at every other event as well, so.
Thank you. Okay, spring sports, as you said.
Spring sports. I'll let Mr. Jelinek
We
tackle
can
this
talk
one.
about that. So, I sent a memo over. The Capital Conference principals, superintendents, and athletic directors are actually gonna be meeting this week. And based on that discussion, along with WIA guidance, we'll be setting our local fan and athlete expectations for spring sports. So we have not really made any major decisions, so I know Barb asked the question about track. That's gonna be discussed this week and what that's gonna look like. And again, we're just trying to create some consistencies from one school to the next. So when our fans go to a track meet in Columbus, it's gonna be similar to what it's gonna be in Lodi. So we'll have that discussion this week, and then we'll be able to start setting our expectations. So, a lot of similarities to what we're doing right now. That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Compensation.
Yeah, so we are kind of that time of year, like, that we try to set the compensation for our labor groups, for the following year. Brent Richter and I, met with the contract, review committee, and then we also met with Facility and Finance and brought a recommendation, to both of those committees. We came up with a final recommendation that came out of Facility and Finance, which is here for your approval, and this is for compensation for the 2021-22 school year for all labor groups.
I will make the motion to approve the pay increase of 2.51% for support staff, a 1.8% increase for administration and directors, coordinators, specialists to be distributed by a percent method, and a 1.8% increase for all teaching staff, or for teaching staff, and supplemental increases as proposed by the administration.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Angie. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Insurance renewal.
All right, so this is Mr. Richter's item, but he has shared again with the contract review and the facility finance committee. The health insurance committee has met with Dean Insurance, and due to we didn't really use a lot of insurance this year, which allowed us to have a lower rate, so he's looking at locking us in for 3 years. First year at 2.5% increase, second year at a 3.5% increase, and the third year at a 5.5% increase. And again, this came out of the insurance committee and would recommend for approval for our insurance coverage for next school year.
That's good news.
That's good news.
Do you want to make a motion, Shelley? Or Angie?
I move to take two. I move to renew the Dean Health Plan insurance coverage for the 2021-2022 school year.
I will second that.
Motion by Shelley and a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. COVID-19 leave.
So again, the contract review committee was quite busy. So I took this to the contract review committee as well. As part of the American Rescue Plan Act, which was signed by President Biden in March, there was new COVID leave in that stimulus package. So if you remember, going back last April, there was COVID leave put in a stimulus act passed by President Trump in the Congress then, and it's called FFCRA leave. That ended on December 31st. We had no choice. We had to participate in that. It was good for our employees and supported, but the district had to foot the bill for that. Private business got tax credits for that. School districts just had to foot the bill. We knew that was coming to an end, so in December, the board made a decision to extend COVID leave, temporary COVID leave, for our employees, again, for us, just, again, if they were quarantined or things of that nature, or had COVID. And we, again, took on that cost. But one of the things we talked about at that point was if the federal government or the state government comes up with new COVID leave, we would probably jump back to that. So we are now back to that. And so we have this opportunity as of starting April 1st, where we could do 2 types of leave. One is called emergency sick leave, and which is what we're kind of looking at doing. Emergency paid sick leave. There's also emergency family medical leave, and they're both voluntary for the district, so we could choose not to do either. But if we choose to do them, the district could qualify for tax credits at this time, so the federal government will help us with that. We are, as administration, recommending that we do the emergency paid sick leave from April 1st through June 30th. That will kind of just replace what our temporary COVID leave was. We are not recommending that we do the emergency family medical leave. First of all, just too many unknowns with what would happen if staff would take us and us being able to replace them for the last 7 weeks of the school year. And secondly, the cost, the benefits don't help as much, right? So for that, we would get $200 per day, maybe back in tax credits, but I'd have to pay a sub $200 a day. So it really kind of just wipes it even versus the other one. So I would recommend that, as the recommendation here, is that we do the emergency paid sick leave through April 1st to 2021 through June 30th, 2021.
So I can read this. Do we start with, right under the public content?
Yeah, where it says proposed motion.
No, you don't have to have the top part.
Okay. I make a motion that the district ends the temporary COVID-19 leave policy at the end of the day, March 31st, 2021, and replace it with the emergency paid sick leave from April 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021, as provided by the American Rescue Plan Act.
I'll second that.
Motion by Shelley, and a second by Angie. So used to saying Stephen, sorry, make so many motions. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0.
After tonight, I'll make no more motions.
I know.
So I do have a question. So the
Sure.
family medical leave that is optional for us to adopt?
We have,
Can somebody somebody could actually still apply for it, correct?
We still have normal family medical leave.
Okay.
Right, so it doesn't change that. This is more related to COVID.
Right.
So, for example, extended family medical leave, like if your child, school wasn't quite full in session, or their
Right.
daycare was closed, you could have off to 12 weeks for that under this plan. Under regular family medical leave, you couldn't do that.
Right.
But if you have a health issue related to COVID, or you have a health issue, any other health issue, we still have Family Medical Leave Act, just like we normally would.
Okay.
That's not going away. This would just be above and beyond that. Good question.
Social school for you, edu contract.
You skipped a whole lot.
I skipped strategic planning.
Fees,
I skipped
not
a whole bunch of
fees.
stuff.
You skipped like 4.
You want to be done.
Fees.
What happened there? Sorry. 2021, 2022 fees.
Yeah, so this is just a recommendation for us to move forward with the same fees that we had going into this year. Part of our contract with Taher for food service kept the fees the same. And when I met with our administrative staff, we feel the fees should stay the same. We will have to come back and look at our hockey fees because they're not in here. But otherwise, I just make a recommendation that we pull over our fees the same from this year to next year.
I'll make a motion to approve keeping of the school fees and lunch prices at the same level as 2021 school year for the year 21-22 school year.
Second. Motion by Shelley and a second by Bill. See, now Shelley's taking over these motions things, and it's great, but Shelley's also leaving, so.
Trying to get it all out in one night.
Yeah.
Make her mark on the,
My glasses aren't fogging up. That's the whole reason I can do this. I'm like, I can see.
Any
Hallelujah.
further discussion on this topic? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. College credit proposal.
Yeah, so attached is the college credit proposal. We brought this to the board meeting a couple months ago. The board tabled it, took it and asked us to go to the contract review committee to get additional feedback on how to improve it. We met with contract review, had a pretty lengthy meeting with them, went over different aspects of this proposal. So they gave us that feedback. We took that feedback, recrafted this proposal, together a contract, and brought it back to contract review, which approved it to come to this committee recommendation of approval.
And the adjustments that were made were all reflective of the comments that the board had made in the very first meeting when we decided to table it. So all that input was kind of wound up into this.
Yep.
I will make a motion to approve the tuition reimbursement agreement as provided.
I will second that motion.
Motion by Stephen and a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Strategic planning. I think we covered strategic planning in full.
We did. We did.
Pass on that one. Now, social school for ed
Okay.
contract.
Yeah, so the school district in our second year of contracting with social schools for EDU that manage our social media. When I was a high school principal, I started a Facebook page, and I spent a lot of time at the high school Facebook page. And because it's really important to market our schools, right? Our local newspaper, it just doesn't have the ink space and time to do all of those things, right? If we're not gonna tell our story, who's going to? So we need to make sure we have a lot of great things going on, making sure that we're doing that. We decided a couple years ago to come together and have this company help facilitate that and have one Facebook presence, and then a social media presence. And so last year, we renewed it for one more year. I am recommending that we renew this contract for a 3-year contract moving forward.
I'll make a motion to approve a 3-year contract between the school district of Lodi and social schools for EDU.
Second?
Motion by Shelley and a second by Angie. Any further discussion?
I think it's just really important that we have a well-crafted social media presence, and it's just so much harder to do than you think it would be. I do it for my own business, and it's really challenging to get things out in a timely manner, and I think it is really money well spent. You know, as much as I follow it, I think they've been doing a really good job. It sounds like you guys think it's been doing well too, so.
What I'd like to see, at one point we had this, but it might have been at a different time frame for me. were like the 10 best things about Lodi, and it had listed something like that. It might have been when Shimmy Shack was here, I'm not
No,
sure.
we did that for the new website proposal thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, so, but then, because I remember giving flyers to people
Yep, we had flyers.
that had, it just went 10, 9, 8 down to 1, and I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Because people are like, well, I don't know what's in Lodi, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if we got stuff for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You know, because we know this, but if you could hand them something to take home when they're not, when they're school shopping, you know. So I'm all for publicity on that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Consideration of issues of letter of assurance.
So the board every year needs to take action to approve teacher, administrator, director, specialists, contracts, and issue letters of insurance to our support staff for the following school year. This is the time of year we do that every year. And it'll help too, we have the compensation pieces as well, so we can issue them with that information on them as well. So I would ask for approval so we can move forward with that process.
I'll make a motion to approve issuing the 2021-2022 contracts to district teaching staff, administrators, directors, and specialists, and to approve issuing 2021-2022 school year letters of assurance to all district support staff employees.
I'll second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Shelley. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Update on the school board election.
Yeah, as we've talked a couple times, this is Mr. Ricks and Ms. Pear's last board meeting. So we had those 2 seats up for election, and Ms. Lathrop's seat was up for election at the last board meeting, or at the last election, which was held April 6th. Ms. Lathrop won her seat again as an incumbent, so congratulations. We did have 5 people running for 3 seats. 3 of those people were write-in candidates, so there was, thanks to the Optimist Club for sponsoring a forum the Wednesday before, to give people some ideas of the different candidates' thoughts about different issues. And I want to really take my hat off and thank Heather Barron and Julie Burkholder for throwing their hat in the ring. I really do appreciate their willingness to serve our students and our community in such a way. And then the 2 other top vote-getters were Kristen McMorris and Terry Haig, so they will be joining the board. We have a reorganization meeting on April 26th, and then the May board meeting with the first official board meeting that they have. I have talked to all of these people and congratulated everybody and thanked everybody for running. I have met with Terry Haig. I met with her today. And went over a board onboarding document, which I shared with the board through my weekly notes, and kind of walked through what responsibilities of being a board member. Terry also met with Maureen Palmer to go over board docs, get up her email all set up and things of that nature, and then met with Dr. Carls, Ms. Loken, and Mr. Richter to kind of learn about the district office staff. I used to say when I was the director of student services, even my own family didn't know what I did. When I was in high school,
Still might not know.
When I was a high school principal, they thought they knew what I did. Right? So,
Everybody thinks they know.
right, so they think they know what a principal, and they don't, right? It's all the stuff you do behind the scenes that they just don't see. So, but I just wanted to give them the opportunity, our board members, the opportunity to meet with our curriculum director, our director of student services, and our business office, just to kind of, first of all, meet those people and start establishing those relationships. Secondly, learn what those positions do. And third, what are some issues that may be coming up that you may be seeing at a board meeting that are going to be addressed. So just starting to establish those relationships. So as I've told both Christy and Terry, my job is to try to set them up for success. Because if they're being successful, that means our students are being successful and our district's being successful. So, and as I shared with you the onboarding document, please look at that and let me know. I also shared it with Angie. And if there's something that you think I need to add as we go through that, and this is something that should be added, I wish I would have known. And Barb, you being just brand new, this is your first year. If you think back like this,
I learned a lot from this document.
Barb's a principal, I mean, she knows stuff. She knows a lot of stuff.
I'm not a principal.
You're something.
Something that's
Something. That was good. It was real, that was great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's where, again, I appreciate everybody running and their willingness to serve, and look forward to Christy and Terry joining us.
I gotta say, we were there, I worked the polls, and we didn't leave till 10:30. There were so many write-in candidates.
Yeah.
It was steady throughout, I got there at 3 and I didn't get home till 10:30. And I had my COVID shot before that, and of course I have no blood, so there was no problem. But it was really neat to see continual people coming in when there's only 4 things on the ballot. You know, there were 3 write-ins for me. I told them to cash them out though, so we'll see.
Really?
Yeah.
If I knew there was gonna be an onboarding document, I might have stayed. No one's ever
That is
told me
not
what the
true.
job was.
We had this conversation in January when it came out of the WASB convention. If
Yeah.
you remember, we talked about this in the high school library.
It was already too late. I couldn't have brought it.
You could have been a write-in at that point.
He hadn't signed up.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
That's the update on that.
Policy first readings.
Yeah, so these are all, have been approved by the policy committee, and these are all just aligning these different policies with our Title IX policy that was done this summer.
Well, you guys meet once and you come up with all these policies.
I know.
Yes.
And there's also, we also had, so most of them are with Title IX. There was also the policy 420 had something with children, youth, and transition. There was a piece there that had to be tweaked that came out of our WSB Quick Check and Title IX review. And then we also are looking at adding a gender inclusion policy and procedure.
That was a long meeting that day.
It was. There's been a couple long ones. So it's just a first read for all those. Any feedback, back to the policy committee or myself.
Second reading of policy.
Yeah, so these policies were reviewed at the February 17th committee and the March board meeting. And again, with recommendation for approval. And this is just looking at public use of school facilities and grounds and all the exhibits that go with it, with rentals and things like that. If you remember, we tried when we put together the stadium, said we needed to go back and really update these so they all aligned. So that's what this is. And then our medication policy, administration prescription of administration of prescription and non-prescription medication, the policy and the procedure. We needed to update that as well.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move the full board with recommendation of approval of the updates to policy 830, rule 830, and 830, exhibit 1, 830, exhibit 2, 830, exhibit 3, 830, exhibit 4, and policy 453.4, and procedure, administration of prescription and non-prescription medication as presented.
Second. Motion by Shelley and a second by Bill. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone
Fogged up
opposed?
at the end.
No one in opposition, passes 7-0. We have no gifts and donations, so we move on to administrative reports. Student services. And you're here in person.
Not a lot to add to my report, just that we're continuing our book study for our equity group, which we have over 100 people participating in, so that's been exciting. Just have had some great conversations. Social emotional learning, we just had a training this last Friday called Developmental Designs. It's something we're looking at for grades 6 through 12, so we had a group of administrators, student services staff, and some regular ed teachers go through the training to help us decide if that's the direction we want to go. So they're in the process of sending me feedback by the end of this week, so it was a great training. What else? You passed or looked at the gender inclusion policy tonight. We also have the possibility, or it's being proposed to have an LGBTQ group at the middle school, the genders and sexualities group, so that's something new. And then I know you're also considering, or one of the committees is considering, the multicultural club at the high school as well. So a lot going on in terms of new things coming down the road. What else? I think that's about it, all I have to add. Of course, coming back April 19th is super exciting, and a lot of our special ed kids have already been in the buildings, obviously, since September. But we have more joining us on April 19th, so that will be exciting. A little stressful, and I know we've talked as an administrative team too, just about stamina and kids being able to, withstand a long school day after they've had a lot more freedom and breaks and those types of things. So hopefully we'll be able to accommodate that and help them with their stamina.
Okay, thank you. Primary school, Mike. Oh, primary school.
I can do either one, I would
No, no,
probably do a
no,
better
no.
job at elementary, but I can't stay. Amy's got it under control, she's doing a good job.
Switch things up.
She switched, no, Mo switches them up on purpose, and so then I psych out trying to figure out which ones are.
So I can hear about I can go
Yes.
first with that.
Nope.
So, I shared the updates about, returning April 19th. I think the thing I wanna highlight today is our literacy goal and the work that we've been working on for that. I thought it'd be interesting for you to maybe, get some in-depth knowledge, I guess, on kind of what direction we've been, moving with our staff there. So, Dr. Carls has led a survey with our staff, on the different components of literacy. We've met with our teams to really kind of get a pulse on where are we currently at and where do we want to grow and stretch. And so one of the first areas we looked at was Haggerty, which is a phonemic awareness program. And so at the end of April, all of our staff will get a chance to have some professional development on that. Right now, everyone has the resource, but we haven't really had the time and the training to really dive into what does this look like and how we do this. With that being said, Mrs. Beth Mayer has done a phenomenal job as the kindergarten teacher who was in charge of that for all of the online portion. And so all the students in kindergarten would watch these videos. And it's funny because people will say that the younger siblings are watching this. So I would say even our kids from 3 all the way up are watching her videos on this. And she's even got a mistake of going down the street and they'll call her Mrs. Haggerty. So, but anyway, so I just thought, Mrs. Palmer's gonna show just a short clip of it, but I just thought it would be nice for you to get a chance to see kind of what is it that we are talking about when I mention Haggerty, and then we'll be diving into that in PD shortly, so.
I thought it was a blast. I watched most of it. I got up and danced with it. She did a great job.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
And it's been great because the teachers will talk about how they have been learning from her with that area
Yeah.
and just how that's spreading, so, yeah.
And
this
the
is
way
more for you in a second.
she is just specific in her teaching. It's well
Segment,
done.
yeah.
Really well done.
Click on administrator reports, there you go.
Sorry, I just can't see.
Okay, we're all imagining this is how the district is actually run. While we're sitting there saying, up, down.
Got a link right.
The way she teaches though is very impressive.
My friends, did you know there's such a thing as National High Five Day? There is. So we got a kitty doing kitty high five, okay? So here we go. We're gonna start our Haggerty out with silly rhyming words. These are animals in the zoo. Animals in the zoo, okay? So one of the animals you'll see that has stripes is a free-bra. Free-bra. Will you see a free-bra? No, you'll see a zebra, right? And of course you'll see a roaring trion. Trion lion, right? Or you might see a driger. Driger, tiger, yeah? Or you might see a pranda. Pranda, panda. And of course, there might be a black or brown or white brer. Not brer, bear. And then of course, there might be a bramble with one hump or two, a bramble, camel. And you might see a big or a little quirtle, not quirtle, turtle. And of course, there's the big brelephant. The big brelephant. Brelephant, elephant. Great work, I'll be right back. All right, here we have a bunny high five. Okay, we're gonna do our beginning sounds. Remember the 2 sounds that a word begins with. So say grumpy. Grumpy starts with grr. Say trust. Trust starts with tur. Drop. Drop starts with dur. Crumb. Crumb starts with cur. Brait. Bright starts with burr.
And you could kind of just say, so
Bridge.
as she's doing
Bridge
this,
starts
the
with
teachers will
burr.
do this and the kids will be repeating and doing it all
Press.
together.
Press starts with purr. And the last one is grand. Grand starts with grr. Nice work. All right, now we have a bigger high five.
And she has, what's cool about her videos is each one, she has a different picture in each one, so that's kind of one of the things that draws them in. But as you can see, they're talking about segmenting the different sounds and really getting the kids to listen to those sounds so they can start to do that. And this, I mean, it's just an integral part of the whole literacy component, just that foundational piece. So we'll have that training at the end of April. And then next year, we will have the whole scope and sequence in from 4K through second grade. 4K through first grade, it's pretty intense that you're doing. Second grade is more for students that are missing it. But yeah, so I just wanted you to get a chance to see that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Mayor.
Well, and they've got really big, good guys dancing in there too later.
She has lots of
Awesome.
creative things.
Wow.
We do not have a student rep tonight, so we probably don't have a student rep report.
Probably.
And then, now Mike, the reason I wanted to jump to you is because I had a question for you, and so I was.
Want to start?
No, I want you to start.
No, it's okay. So, the report was several pages, but, I want to share information with you about our local, kind of SEL assessment that we have conducted this year. So we've done SEL assessments in the past. We've had a little bit of challenge with finding the right one for a number of different reasons. Sometimes it was, gave us okay information that we didn't really love. Sometimes it didn't jive real well with our student information system. So like we had this good information that we were paying for, but it really didn't make it to where we were most accessing the information. So it was this kind of standalone that wasn't particularly helpful. So this one we've shifted to a more locally designed one that we're using a pre-K 5. So we did it again a little bit after mid-year, and you can see the fall and the winter percentages in almost all categories, and it's been a little bit since I've looked at it, and it might be all categories, has gone up, which is really exciting. That partially, I think some of that is because of the fact that in fall we were all virtual, and when this was administered, we had kids in half day and kids were excited to be back in. That's a hypothesis, I don't know, because we don't have baseline data to compare it to from last year. So, but I did want to share with you, because I thought that was very exciting news. It also is a credit, like Vince is saying, to the work that our staff is doing of building relationships and having kids be, the very first question, I like participating in school. 5 is agree, 1 is disagree. In the fall, it was 39.8% agreed. In the winter, it was 52.53. So, that's 5, and then 4 was 28%. So we're already at, almost 80% of people in the top 2 groups. Anyway, so there's a bunch. I'm not going to read those to you, but that's what those tables are about. And then we did finish up on mid-year assessments, and then we're starting to move forward into forward assessments. That was not even by design, that just happened. And then we'll finish off with iReady assessments. We do state assessments first, and then iReady after that. I give an example of announcements, and then here's some pictures from my verbal report. Shows you what our classrooms and spaces will look like as we're getting ready, and then the quadrant map for recess. So,
Yeah, thanks for those pictures, they're great. Everybody who puts pictures in there. The question was on that survey that you guys took, so yeah, great, we had past answers to those questions, but that is something that you're gonna do on a regular basis?
So the goal is, to get a tool that we're using consistently, but we never know how much we like it or don't like it until we use it. This is our own, so I feel like we can tweak it, and I think this is probably what we use for a while going forward. But I was optimistic about one of the products that we bought until we realized how challenging it was to get into student management, so.
Because it'd be really nice to have that data 2 years from now, 3 years from now, it'd be amazing.
Well, especially as we talk about the YRBS data to look at something before. So that was where one of the drivers for the measuring what we're doing now is not just get into 8th grade and then be happy or, for lack of a better term, panic about what we're getting. Like try to predict some of what's happening or where it changes and that kind of stuff.
Change it at the earlier grade. Thank you. Middle school. Probably he's not here, so we have his report. The one thing I will say, the LMS profiles of women that was included with that was, to me, amazing. Not just because it was profiles of women, but we have so many staff that we personally never get to interact with,
Yeah.
and if we could have one of those from staff and people who work in our department or our district, we could actually get a tiny little sliver of knowledge into each of them. So
This was a great format, I mean, it was
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
pretty,
it looked like it was easy for them, right, and it would be easy for us. I'm just personally requesting on my own behalf to hear from more people like that.
Well, they had, the past month was for the women,
Yeah,
and that could be maybe, you know, integrated with what you're doing, with that.
right, but even if you could get students to do this, right, where we
Right.
could learn what does a second grader love to do today, right? I used to know when my kids were in second grade, but I don't know anymore, and so it would be amazing to hear that kind of stuff from, maybe not those exact questions, but.
Yeah,
Well,
Magic
here's 20
98 had a
students.
different, Magic 98 had a different woman, businesswoman
Yeah.
for the whole month, you know, and I thought that was really cool. But we could do the people that we have in our district.
Right, but we would hear from kids in their own voice, saying
Oh, sure,
what they
yeah.
cared about, right? And then that would help
but
us.
also like for the staff, like, even when your kid is like in that building and you kind of know a lot of the teachers, then, you know, new people arrive in the district and then you don't know them.
Yep.
We did a game a long time ago that there was an answer, and it was like, who has a Corvette here? You know, and then you had to pick it was a new teacher game or something, because it was very, long time ago, way back when I had more hearing.
When you had a Corvette,
What?
when you had a
Huh?
Corvette.
So, yeah.
Okay, high school.
First wanted to start with, thanks Adam. So first wanted to start with student recognitions. So congratulations to LHS music student, she's a sophomore, Bella Avila, who was selected as a member of the 2021 WSMA State Honors Mixed Choir. Very, very competitive, and for her to get that honor, it says a lot about her talent and the talent of our music program. So appreciation for her and Ms. McCrae. Also, Lodi freshman George Brewa won second place in the WSMA's music composition project for his original electronic music piece, Space Emotion, which was really cool. And again, highly competitive, so for him to get this honor, very impressive for George. So I just wanted to mention those two. I wanted to thank the PTO publicly for what they did. They put together some goodie bags for our students, and we had a couple conversations in our PTO meeting with them about what high school students would want, and they came up with some great ideas. Culver's coupon, pair of sunglasses, pack of gum, chapstick, and hand lotion with consideration of the extra hand washing that was going on in the winter. So I wasn't sure how they would react to this, but they were really appreciative. So I had the admin assistants go out during lunch and hand them out, and then we handed them out on material pickup day. And I think they really liked them. So I really appreciate the PTO for putting those together. Another highlight, we couldn't have homecoming week this year, and I know our students and our community really look forward to homecoming with the parade and the football game and all the other activities that happen during the week. So I did get together with some student leaders, some of our officers and advisors, and we came up with a Spirit Week. So that's going to be coming up starting April 26th. We are going to have some dress-up days. We're going to do class T-shirts. I did ask some seniors, like, do you want to go through the whole process of having T-shirts? And they said, absolutely. We want to do it again. We've done it for 3 years. We like to get class T-shirts. We do class banners as well. And the overall theme is overcoming the storm, which makes sense this year. And we play the Kiwani Storm on that Saturday, so that's where that theme comes from. And we're doing something a little bit different with class banners. Normally we just hang them in the school. We actually reached out to 4 businesses that have big enough windows to put these banners in. So instead of us having the parade and moving up the high school down to Main Street, we're gonna do that with our class banners. So I wanna thank Vern's Appliances, the Meat Market, Karate America, and Willow Tree Wellness for allowing us to hang those banners in those businesses, so we'll do that. The other thing I do wanna mention, and I wanna recognize actually Mr. Breinig and Mo Palmer for the Outstanding Impact Awards. Mr. Breinig did an outstanding job. He was the MC for that event. It was a very unique event. So normally it's held at the Wisconsin, at the Country Club, correct, Country Club by Rotary. So we were able to do that live in the PAC The two pictures I included, there were two students that couldn't be there, but we were able to live stream them in, which was really cool. So I want to thank Jason Marshall for organizing that. He organized the live YouTube, or the YouTube live stream, plus the Google Meets. And the pictures you can see are Michelle Poles speaking with Jaden Kalinsky, and also Derek Pertzborn, who received the reward, talking to Sulan Ness. So it was a great event. I'm glad we could have it live, and that's just kind of the first of probably 4 or 5 events we're going to have in the PAC this spring. And then finally, the pictures that I added for the alternate fall sports season. Mr. Brennick talked about it a little bit, but I want to recognize Athletic Director Sue Meffert, Associate Principal Jason Marshall, and Administrative Assistant Lynn Werderitz. They have done a tremendous job, along with our coaches and athletes, but they've done a tremendous amount of, or spent a tremendous amount of time getting ready for those seasons, preparing venues, taping bleachers. I don't think we ever want to tape bleachers again. We spent a lot of time doing that. And then doing contact tracing, which I would not recommend anybody ever have to do. It's not a fun job. Sometimes you get a little pushback from different people. So I appreciate some of the efforts they put into that. And you can see some of the pictures from some of our season. So
Thank you.
Yep.
And then curriculum.
Thank you. At the very top of the document, you'll see a note about a posting for an English as a second language teacher. And so where did that come from? Well, that was born out of a review from our district English learner team, which is a team comprised of educators and administrators that I started when I came in as Director of Curriculum and Instruction, noting from a number of educators that's something that we want to take a little bit deeper look at. So what we first did as a team is we did a SWOT analysis. We looked at big picture English language learner services within the district. What are strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for the future related to that in the school district of Lodi? We also, as a team, went through the DPI English as a second language handbook, and we started to analyze ourselves in reference to that to see, one, are we meeting kind of all the compliance measures for serving that population of students, and definitely thought we were doing a good job in a number of areas and a couple of other areas where during a serviceable job it could increase. Out of those conversations, kind of 2 key points for the future that the team noted were one, kind of professional development on ensuring that we have kind of strong structures in place at a tier 1 level for serving our English language learner population, PD for all staff related to that. And then 2, really enhancing our service delivery model for students who are English language learners within our system and leveraging an ESL teacher to do that. And so we have a posting up right now for that, and we're looking for a viable candidate to kind of take through the interview process that we would eventually come to the board and seek approval not only for that person, but also for that position, because that would be a new FTE for the district. But it's very exciting if we find the right person to be able to continue to further serve that population. So I'm going to pause right there before I hit on any other things to see if you have any questions about that. And then later on, you'll see that, or just further on down, you'll see an update. We've continually come back to talk about Spanish 5 and the possible opportunity to partner with UW Oshkosh and the CAP program to give some of our students some additional options for accessing dual credit. We had further discussions about that with the curriculum committee, and I will be bringing some policy options to the policy committee to really specifically look at how much, if we offer anything as far as tuition assistance to those students as a district. I've given in here an update on professional development, some things that'll be coming down the line for our staff. To piggyback on what Mrs. Fossbunder noted, our phonemic awareness training, which is an important, incredibly important kind of building block. When you think about the scaffolding of instructional pieces that we want to have in place for students to be able to have really strong reading skills, that's something that we're excited about having in place. We have the Math Institute of Wisconsin coming next month to work with our middle school educators This summer, we're going to continue with building capacity around the Lucy Calkins writing training that has happened in the past, and so we have some educators who are going to be attending the Lucy Calkins Writing Summer Institute as they have in the past, but virtually. So that's nice. We get to have some significant savings by doing that, by doing it virtually. And then we're excited on August 25th, we will have Dr. Jan Richardson, who is an expert in the field of guided reading, which is another component of early literacy instruction, and she will be here to work with our educators on that framework. And then finally, at the end, there's just a note on state assessments. We are in the state assessment season. We have completed the ACT assessment successfully. We have makeups tomorrow, but we'll be jumping into the Ford exam, as Mr. Pisani has noted, very soon here.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And then LCAT.
Pretty short report this month, but Paula Inger is very excited that she has completed their Year 10 DFC grant submittal. I probably should have mentioned this over the past 10 years, maybe I haven't, but it's not a foregone conclusion that every year we get the grant. We kind of take it as that because you're at least in the running, but every year you have to resubmit, you have to prove the results from the last year, and so it is kind of a big deal, and unfortunately Paula's the only one that really knows it's a big deal. So I want to thank her for all the hard work that she puts into it, and then hopefully we'll get our last year renewal. It'll be about $120,000 in grant money for LCAT, which is what we've been getting every year for the past 9 years. So it's a good thing. We will be resuming alcohol compliance and tobacco compliance checks this summer. So that'll be a program that we've been missing while COVID has been going on, and we're glad to get back on that. And as we noted last month, we are hosting a national night out on Tuesday, August 3rd. There'll be a lot more information about that, but we're hoping that the world kind of gets back to close to being normal, and we can have that as we normally would. And then the last thing is kind of sad news, but good news, is that Margaret Finko, our project coordinator, has accepted a job with the State Department of Health as our trauma coordinator. We have had a string here lately of hiring some really great people who have worked for us for a couple of years and then gone on to some other really great jobs. So again, it's been a little rough on Paula. She's talked to me today and said, I really don't want to have to train another person, but I said, come on, we can do it. We can do it. Part of it is a credit to the fact of the quality of candidates that we do have. And I think there's a little bit of credit going to LCAT and the community that our program is recognized statewide. And as soon as we get personnel in that role, then they're observed by a lot of these other organizations. And unfortunately, they're able to offer a little bit more prestigious job and a little bit more money, and it's a good place for them to go. So we congratulate Margaret for that, and we'll probably shortly be posting a position to replace her. So, yeah, thank you.
District Administrator report.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank Beth Mayer for her presentation tonight. You know, it's not always easy to be, you're used as a teacher to put yourself on a video in front of kids, but then to do it in front of adults sometimes. So I really appreciate her doing that and for us at the board. Want to reach out and just to say a thank you again to SSM Health for coordinating the vaccine clinic that we had last Tuesday. It was phenomenal. Walked in. I went to check in. I was talking to the superintendent of Baraboo, and they're like, no, you need to go up here. And by the time I got there, they're like, yeah, we got you. We're checked in. Go. Like, okay. It went very smoothly. We were very fortunate as well as we had it butted up against a Wednesday, not a school day. So I know I got a call on Friday asking us, Channel 27 did a news story about some of the different schools that had virtual days or call off school for different reasons. So we were just fortunate how that worked out.
So who came, was that you that started it? Did you start it?
Start what? Start the clinic?
Did you call the Dells and Baraboo?
No, SSM Health did. So we were in a conversation all the way along through vaccines. Maureen played a huge role in that. We were constantly in contact with Sauk Prairie Healthcare, who I thought was going to become our vaccinator. We were in contact with our local pharmacy. We were in contact with the county, and we were in contact with SSM Health. Dean, who is our healthcare provider, if you'd have asked me a week before we set up the vaccine clinic, who would have been our vaccinator, I would have said SSM Health would be probably the fourth. And then they stepped up. They were just like, they were running these behind the scenes, had kind of put together some systems that made it work very well. So they called us and said we can't, and when we reached out to them or talked to them, there's like, well, you're not big enough to have your own vaccine clinic, and neither was Baraboo and neither was the Dell, so they put us all three together. It was very, very well run. Gene Winters, Lexine Weber, and Rodney Barrow worked up there all day long giving vaccines, which is what made it work, is that we used our people to give the shots. And so it was just very well run. And again, I think we were very fortunate we had that day off on Wednesday, because it would have been very difficult for us to have school. We had people who had symptoms, side effects and things of that nature. So we were very fortunate and very thankful. And thankful to Baraboo and Dells. Baraboo did a phenomenal job running it and giving their facilities. So Lori Mueller did a phenomenal job as their superintendent, and everybody else up there. It was great. So very appreciative of that. Want to say, sadly say, thanks to Tiffany for all her work that she's done over the years. She will be leaving us and to take on a bigger role in a neighboring district, so she will be very difficult to replace. She's been a rock out here for a long, long time, so we're very happy for her, sad for us, but thrilled for, as I said, thrilled for her that she has this opportunity in front of her.
Thanks, Tiffany.
But she's stuck with us for another few months yet. So.
I'll be here till June 30th.
Yeah, but again, just wanted to make you aware. So we'll be looking at, we've posted that position and be looking at interviewing in the next couple weeks, and probably reach out to one of you to sit on that committee as well, as we do with administrators. I want to echo Joe's statement about Outstanding Impact Awards, and got this note today that I'm going to share with the board from one of the staff members who was recognized that evening. And one of the things that I shared with our entire staff is, if we pulled all of our seniors, they all have somebody who's had an outstanding impact in their life, right? So those educators up there are honored that day, but they're also just a placeholder for all the other great educators we have in our system. So just want to thank the Rotary Club for their sponsorship. This was the 30th year of this event. And again, we had to do it kind of in a pandemic way the last 2 years, but their support has been unwavering, and it's just a phenomenal way for us to honor not only our students, but some educators, but then we also that night talk about all of our educators and how much they contribute to our kids. And then finally, I know we thanked a lot of people tonight, but I, again, just want to thank our parents and our community for their support and all that they have done to work with us and partner with us through everything that we've been through thick and thin. Our parents have been phenomenal and definitely supporting us on those virtual days so we can go get our staff to get vaccinated, so we can come back more in school. And not have staff be quarantined. They've been phenomenal, and I just really appreciate it. It's been we keep talking about a heavy lift on staff. It has been a really heavy lift on our parents. It's uprooted, especially our younger parents having our students. It's uprooted their lives, no question about it. And I'm just very thankful for all the work that they've done. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you. So Tiffany, again, on behalf of the Board of Education, I wrote it down because I have a lot of stuff to say. So. I would like to take a moment to personally thank Tiffany Loken for her service to our school district. Thank you for the innovation and vision you have always brought to our district these last 14 years. You are caring and compassionate, forward-thinking, deeply and directly involved in not only initiating many of the programs and services we see throughout our district, but also providing the underlying support structure for all of those programs and services to be successful as they are. You have always kept us ahead of the curve, and so I sincerely thank you for sharing your talents with our school district these last 14 years, and we will deeply miss you, very deeply.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Very well deserving, though. And I'd also like to thank Lucinda Rainey, who has a very unique position in our school. For 26 years, teaching our students life skills in the middle school level is not easy. Lucinda has also initiated and supported, like Tiffany, been involved in with so many of the programs that show our students that they are cherished, regular people who are also unique and special in their own ways. She has made so many of our students who were in an awkward period of their life understand that they are a very important part of our district and community. And I thank you for your service too. And like Vince said, I would also like to thank everyone, our parents, students, teachers and staff, and the administration for restarting the 2021 school year for a third time now. Your dedication to the students of this community are outstanding. They're also humbling, and they are greatly appreciated. So thank you all. Reports. CISA 5 rep.
That would be me.
Yes.
Yes, well, and somebody else is taking over for that, so I was not at the last meeting.
Okay.
But again, Jeremy Beal is phenomenal to work with. He gets back to you immediately. I gave him really great comments on his evaluation, and we're very lucky to have somebody in this area. He can pop in and find somebody to send anywhere, so somebody else on the board gets to work with him, and you will enjoy that, so.
Okay. Co-curricular items report.
The varsity football team remains undefeated after a 42-12 win over Clinton on Friday night. The football team's next game is Friday night at home versus Beloit Turner. After Lodi's Week 1 win over Edgerton, junior Lucas Hayroth earned a nomination for statewide Player of the Week through wisports.net. The varsity soccer team started practice on March 22nd with their first game coming at home versus Wisconsin Heights on Thursday, April 9th. The soccer team is 1 win, 1 loss, winning 5-1 at home versus Columbus on Saturday, April 10th. This week, the soccer team plays 3 away games at Cambridge, Belleville, Evansville. The varsity volleyball team finished the season at 5 wins, 3 losses. A special thanks to graduating seniors Zulan Ness, Taylor Ripp, Paige Walser, Jaden Kolinsky. The forensics team competed in the Madison West tournament and the district level tournament. The entire team earned scores at the district level that moved them on to the state tournament. The state tournament is currently being judged. Spring sports will be starting in the coming weeks. Baseball, softball, track, and golf all begin on Monday, April 19th. Girls soccer begins the following week on Monday, April 26th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. OSC report.
So the lottery was held on March 20th.
Oh, yeah.
So it went very well. We changed the enrollment period this year to only a month long instead of the whole open enrollment, and have 9 kids on the waiting list in 3rd grade and 2 on the waiting list in 4th grade. So still had good numbers that way. And then the big thing is discussion every month is fundraising.
Yes.
Is trying to figure out how we can maybe creatively do a spring fundraiser without having our musical. So still discussing those things.
I would think you'd be able to do the plant sale.
Yep, talking about that.
Yeah.
We've been looking into how we can make that happen with the 5th graders.
Because it's kind of
Spread out.
It's spread out,
Yeah,
yeah.
if we can do buses and stuff, so that was discussion, yes.
people might even pay twice because they don't
Sure.
be willing to pay extra. Thank you. And then board committee reports, contract review. I think we covered everything.
I think we covered everything that we, it's a long meeting, but we got it all on board.
Curriculum, I think we pretty much covered all that too. But
Yeah, the one thing with the curriculum committee is we did have a, update from the science department. So just, some of the things that were going on there is in the primary and elementary, they're doing mystery science, middle school and high school. They've been doing some online labs, STEAM lab stimulations called gizmos. And let's see, and then also, kind of switching staff around or accommodating, licensing in the science department also to accommodate different classes. So that was the one part missing we didn't talk about.
Thank you. Facility finance?
I think we hit just about everything. The only thing that hasn't come up, because it won't really, is that there's a lot of long-term planning going on right now for maintenance items that are either budgeted in each year or things that will need to be looked at for long-term capital expenditures, and it's a big list. So you'll be seeing more of that in the future.
Yay. And policy, we did cover all policies.
A lot of policies.
A lot of policies.
And with that, there's your future agenda item stuff.
So we don't have regular committee meetings during April, is that right?
Correct.
We just have the reorganization and then the regular board meeting, and then we start to
All
figure
over
out.
again.
Start all over again,
Yep.
okay.
I have one future agenda item.
So April 26th, all of you except Shelley and
Yeah,
Stephen will be
and
here.
what time are you thinking that's gonna occur?
On the 26th?
It says 5:30.
5:30.
Okay, got it. So Shelley and Stephen, I am going to miss your talents. It's been fun. And for the board members, it is traditional for the board members that are leaving to make the motion to adjourn.
Ready, Stephen?
Go ahead.
We were gonna do it in unison.
I'll second.
Huh? You're gonna sing it?
Yes.
This I gotta stay for.
Are we done? Yeah, I guess we are done.
I make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
Motion by Shelley and a second by Stephen. Hopefully no further discussion on that one.
I could sing it.
No.
You could drum it.
Okay. Yeah, you could drum it easily.
We can also have the board band, remember?
That's right.
That's right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now done with tonight's meeting.
We're undone.
Convened.
Thank you, everybody. There was a lot on this agenda, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't think
And
we
it's
did a lot.
28:30.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 hours left.
Hey, it's before 10.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? This is easy, early.
It was all the work that was done beforehand at committee levels for all this stuff.
That's what it is.
That's what helped it, because we, some heavy stuff on tonight's agenda. So thank you. And thank you, Stephen and Shelley, one more time.
Can be different.
As always.
As I said, you can call on me.
Oh, don't worry.
All right, Mo, you get my computer.